supposed to have enough fabric for my mom's size. Okay, we're done. The breast something not cut out to a certain body type.
I would think.
Sending me pictures of the different outfits to try, but my phone was something was screwing up, so I ended up getting like 100 texts all in one burst. I was like, okay, I hope they weren't expecting an answer from me. Oh my goodness. It's a girl's first name. Yeah. The mother is named Jaya, J-A-Y-A. Maybe, or partially. There's actually pictures of the two ladies that started this.
Child's brother, or you got it citizen of the house? I know you from somewhere. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, quasi technology. Oh man. Woo. Woo, baby. so glad
Nice to meet you. I will be in touch by email.
Oh,
A lot to
absolutely.
talk
Great.
about the Streaming World event.
Okay, cool. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll work something out.
Exactly. I'm just going to go to. I have an early plane tomorrow night.
I see.
I'm just toasted, roasted, and otherwise extruded.
I know the feeling.
Good evening again, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed your meal, or that you're still enjoying it. Once again, a big thank you to Spitz and Evans and Sutherland for that. Also, I would like to say another big thank you to SKIS for transportation and providing the shuttles to take you all through Forest Park today to see the other institutions. And I don't want to forget, so I'm going to say it now, but a thank you to Laser Fantasy for tonight's hospitality suite. Guys, we have a ton of beer and wine. Please come drink it. Don't let it go to waste. It's good St. Louis beer that's not Anheuser-Busch. I mean, all right, so we have a little bit of a program, but first I'd like to invite Chuck Rao and a few others to come up. They have something that they would like to present. And I'm just going to let them take this over. And
thank you, Anna. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're enjoying the conference. It's great. It's been absolutely fantastic to spend so much time with such great friends here. We wanted to take just a moment of your time to acknowledge the passing of our dear friend and colleague, James Hughes, formerly of the Buell Planetarium. His passing this week may be news to some of you. I know I've talked to several of you. I know I've spread the word to several of you about that by now. Those of you that knew Jim know there are no quantity of words that can fully describe his impact on the world around us and what he meant to any of us here this evening. This National Planetarium Conference encompasses the type of collaborative effort that he would have loved and is so very important to our community. We aren't just a collection of people, but a part of the family of planetarians. James was, for many of us, the funniest person our family could ever have. We know many of you have great anecdotes to share. I will be collecting videos, audio clips, photos, personal stories, anything that you would like to share. Plan to put together a tribute to his family from our family. We will post about that on Domel. We'll get through this and then get on to that next week. But if you have the ability to gather such things and get them to me, I know that his family would really appreciate that and would absolutely love to hear all of your stories and fondest memories. Jim was a good friend and in many ways my mentor, as were John French and Martin Ratcliffe up here with me. I had the distinct pleasure of working with them through many amazing things, many amazing experiences, and certainly some of the best shows ever produced. Through the Eyes of Hubble, Journey into the Living Cell. These guys, and certainly Jim, taught us all quite a bit and touched us, so many of us, educationally. He was a bit of a character, and we will all pale in comparison to his sense of humor. But it has been an incredible honor to be able to call him my friend and to be able to share a few words together with these guys as we continue our trek through the stars.
All right, and I just wanted to say, I've been in touch with his ex-wife, and she sent me the message Saturday night that he had passed on, and so some of you know he had some mental health issues, and unfortunately wasn't really able to get help for that, and that's a whole other issue that we won't get into right now. But I was relaying some stories with his wife about some road trips that Jim and I used to take, because we used to. I remember there was one particular one where we were coming back from Portland, Maine, and stopped at Niagara Falls, and I won't tell the rest of that story, but maybe if you see me at the hospitality suite, I'll be happy to tell you the rest of the story. But anyway, I messaged that story to Dorinda, and she replied back, "Ha, I remember the story. Nobody can say you two led a boring life, completely and utterly fun-filled and memory-packed life." And then she said, "Please let everyone at the conference know that the kids remember him the same as you all do, a fun, adventurous father who never allowed boredom to set in. They are both cut from his cloth, so he lives on through them." Both kids are in college, Andrew in culinary nutrition and Veronica in communication. So that was what she wanted me to share with everybody, so I guess I have shared that. So thanks. Thanks, Jim.
These two guys are smart because they had this written down. But I got to meet Jim along with John and the crew at Buell in 1991. I moved, my wife and I, from Ireland. I'm going to tell you a little story about what Jim was about. We moved from Ireland, packed all our bags, sold everything, landed at Pittsburgh Airport. Jim was there to meet us, and he had a yellow rose for my wife. And that blew me away. It was awesome. I went, I'm going to have fun working with this guy. He's a real human being. He has a heart. And I then later learned in various productions, when we were reminiscing at our table about Through the Eyes of Hubble, we did a recording with Gates McFadden of the narration. John worked on the graphics for a really interesting opening sequence that Thomas just reminded me of some details about that was a very evocative opening. This was the first servicing mission of the Hubble Space Telescope when we were telling that story. And we went from Stonehenge to the launch of the shuttle in 2.5 minutes. And John produced amazing graphics. Jim was working with John Gore, our composer. And I was sitting in my office getting frustrated because I'd listened to this audio track of the voiceover for weeks and just waiting to see what it looked like on the dome, and it felt flat and it just was missing something. And then Jim came into my office and said, Martin, come here. And I'm going, what? He said, come into the dome. I sat down and they played the music with the graphics. Blew me away. The whole thing came alive. And Jim had worked very closely with John. I learned from John this week that they did all night that night. And part of it, I know Jim wanted to make people happy, and he knew that day he wanted to make me happy, and boy, did he make me happy. So I think this goes for our whole community. There's a lot of love in this room. We all have been around a lot. Those of you who are new in this room, you're going to be around a lot with everybody here. And that's one of the special things about this community. We all love Jim, I love Jim, and we'll all remember him. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so one of the privileges that I get to have is that I can take this moment to be selfish, because I have the microphone, and I want to say a lot of thank yous. So, some of you know the story. About 2.5, 3 years ago, it was 2014, I met Derek Demeter, who's now the president of SEPA, and I met Benjamin, who is the president of PPA, Benjamin Mendelsohn. I met them both at LIPS in 2014 in Mystic Seaport, Connecticut. And we happened to be chit-chatting about this eclipse that was coming up in 2017. And then we started chatting about how that was going to be the 10-year anniversary of the Triple Conjunction Conference that had happened in 2007. And we started chatting about, wouldn't it be cool if we had an East meets West? And wouldn't it be cool if it was over the eclipse? And fortunately, our bylaws don't allow that, because I don't know how any of us would have survived that. But we started talking about this and this crazy idea. Then we linked in and started chatting with Dan Tell from GLIPA about it. And then we were like, well, we should get MAPS involved. Let's reach out to MAPS, and let's get the rest of the Western Alliance conference groups in on this. And all of a sudden, we were starting to talk about having all 7 regionals meet for the first time under one dome. And then we started going around and trying to garner support, and then all of a sudden it was happening. And so over the last 2.5 years, I've had a lot of people help me plan this. And a lot of that credit goes to the regionals themselves. All of you coming together, sharing all of your culture and all of your flair. And I should also throw in a big thank you to IPS as well for, 1, supporting this, and 2, also having council right beforehand so that we have just a ton of international visitors with us as well. I understand that a lot of the regionals have actually grown in size because of that as well, which is wonderful. So anyway, I need to thank Janet Beckstrom, who's not here. She's at a wedding, but she was our registrar. And I think a lot of you in this room talked to her. And if it weren't for Janet, we would not be here. The same thing can be said for Dana Thompson, who is our webmaster, and kept me sane and kept feeding me numbers and helping me stay sure that the budget was on track and that the revenue was on track, and helping me figure out, okay, these numbers can slide over here, and this is where we stand on registration. And so a big thank you to Dana. I want to thank Tom Dobbs and his team. He's in the back. He's the reason that everything's being recorded. He is the reason that we have the Twitter feed and the awesome AV going on. And he is the reason that things are being streamed, and he is the reason that you all are going to be able to go back and watch these later. Any of the sessions you missed, you'll be able to see. Dale Smith is our proceedings editor, so all of the papers will be published, and you will all have access to them. I need to thank... I need to thank also Ron Proctor. He acted as our sponsor liaison. He was our sponsor planetarian who was able to go between and make sure that we were hopefully making everybody happy on all sides. And I also would like to thank Gary Tomlinson, who is the GLIPA Conference Planning Chair. He had tons of advice from, well, he's planned... How many conferences have you planned now, Gary? 30, at least? Jeez. Wow. You are a brave man. Renee Kerrigan and Emily Romy, I want to thank you both for helping me with the social media posts. That has been huge, so that I'm not trying to run around and do that. Dave Joya couldn't be here tonight, but he is our OmniMax theater manager, so he's the reason that we were able to use both of our domes and have more sessions available and show off more content and more technology, and that was a lot of time out of his schedule, so I want to say thank you to him as well. Lane Eibel and Justin Polachek, they are the technicians that you have seen running around like crazy at the Science Center. They have stayed late countless nights until 2 and 3 a.m. to get all of our sponsors installed. And by the way, sponsors, thank you so much for being sleepless with us to install overnight, so we didn't have to close to our visitors until the last moment. I know our visitors appreciate that too. I have had an amazing conference planner who was able to get us the deals with the hotel, the deals with finding the awesome transportation, and pretty much every little thing that has happened behind the scenes is because of Darla Stadler. She's in the back of the room, so thank you, Darla. All of you who turned up on Monday and helped me stuff bags and punched holes in paper and put them in binders, and then started playing the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack to keep us occupied. Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you. That's why those gold stress balls aren't all torn apart, because I would have done that. I also would like to, of course, thank my staff and volunteers at the James S. McDonald Planetarium and the St. Louis Science Center. Eric Gustafson, Allison Vance, Jordan Mogerman, Allison Kristoff, Mike Malalepsy, Bill Kelly, Brittany Johnson, Octavia Howard, and Marcia Barberer, and I am sure I'm missing like a million other people. Hal Donovan, who he was he left us a while ago. He even came back and helped us out. He's been there all week. I'm sure you've seen him at the registration table. Laura Cairo's been supportive of us. And there we go, now it's starting. If it hadn't been for you guys, we wouldn't have made it. For those of you keeping count, that makes 3.5. And finally, I would like to thank all of the past and current presidents of, well, PPA, SEPA, RUMPA, MAPS, GPPA, GLIPA, Thank you. Thank all of you. Swap, you guys pushed for this. You guys made this real. And I would like to invite all of you. I know I talked to you, and I know you're fighting or dreading fighting over or dreading coming up here. But I'd like to have you guys come up here so everybody can see the faces of the groups, so that we all know who was behind this. So if you could come up and just say hi, I would appreciate that. So I've asked them all to introduce themselves and at least say hi before they run away. So I'm going to let them do that.
Hi, I'm Michelle Wistison. I'm from Casper, Wyoming, and I just really appreciate all of the Rumpa people that have supported this conference.
I'm a bit short. Okay. Hi, I'm Sarah Twidle. I am here as proxy, actually, for Levent Goodemeyer, who is the president for SWAP. So I'm very happy to be here for him and, of course, to meet all you wonderful people.
Hi, Jack Northrup, president of GPPA. It's been a fun road to work with Anna and her crew for the last 2 years on building up this conference, and then to see everyone here. So, thank you.
My name is Jeff Holt. I'm from GLIPA, but I am also here as a proxy. Definitely Dale Brown, our president, sends her greetings, and I just want to say it's an honor to be here.
Hi, I'm Benjamin Mendelsohn, president of the Pacific Planetarium Association. So great to be with all of you. It's really quite amazing to have all of us in one place, and I hope we get to do this again soon. And really, the thanks don't go so much to us as to Anna.
My name is Derek Demeter. I'm the president of SEPA, and I want to, echo about Anna's contribution to this and hosting this amazing conference. And this has been a dream for many years, and this has become a reality. I just want to let you know that one of the things that we're going to be doing is releasing an exit survey, and we want to see if we can do stuff like this in the future. So please do us a favor, and when you get an email about that, please fill out the survey. It's very important to us to continue this legacy for the future. Thank you very much.
I'm Kevin Williams. I'm, for the last 10 hours, been president of MAPS. So on behalf of Jerry Vinsky and myself, we're very happy to be here. And I guess I get to present the first award of the evening. In MAPS, we do give an appreciation award to the conference hosts. So unfortunately, the check's in the mail, or the plaque is in the mail. It got rerouted to the wrong address, but it will be coming to Anna and her incredible staff here in St. Louis. So thank you.
So, like I said, all of these people have supported and helped in one way or another. Each regional took over a huge portion of this conference to help make it all come together, and I would be in a straitjacket right now if it weren't for them. So, and like Derek said, we want to do this again. We don't want to wait 10 years. Don't let it be like that family reunion that you're like, oh, we'll do it next year. We'll do it. No. We like each other. Let's do it again. Let's do it again somewhere else, and I'll help. And again, too, I do want to say a thank you to IPS for supporting us. We are all part of that parent IPS global community. So thank you as well for supporting that. And with that, we do have some more awards to give out. So I will call up our GLIPA representatives to take care of that. And then after that, we will have our Armin Spitz, Margaret Noble keynote speaker of the evening. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing us to maintain our tradition of honoring some of our colleagues at the Friday night banquet. First of all, Gary Beckstrom, our past president, who we also have to thank for supporting this conference and making it possible. He's not able to be with us here tonight, but in recognition of his 6 years of leadership and service on the executive committee, we do have a certificate, and Paulette will actually be able to present it to him in person. But can you help me in thanking Gary Beckstrom for his service? One of the honors that we bestow is for fellows of GLPA, and I'm going to call out their names, and then as they're coming up, I'll explain a little bit more about the award. Please hold your applause until I say all three. Dana Thompson, Mike Smale, and Renee Kerrigan. Please come up. The award for fellow recognizes a member's professional status and significant contributions to the Great Lakes Planetarium Association. The fellow award is given to members who have made significant contributions to the organization and have been a member for either 10 consecutive years or 5 and have substantial contributions. And you're looking at people who have made very much substantial contributions to the Great Lakes Planetarium Association. We thank you. Another round of applause, please. Thank you guys very much. Occasionally, we get to honor one of our retired members who have made also significant contributions. So, Sherry Adams, would you please come up while I explain a little bit more about the award? This is the honorary life membership awarded to a retired member for exemplary career contributions to the planetarium education and the Great Lakes Planetarium Association. Sherry has served as our president and our treasurer for 2 terms and was just elected today again for a 3rd term. Now that you're retired, we on the executive committee would have nominated you, but your co-workers beat us to it. Thank you so much. So that, if I wasn't clear, was our honorary life membership award. Occasionally, we also get to award someone for an incredible amount of service in a way that maybe is not quite as recognized as like the elected positions. So we recognize a service award for exceptional and/or long-term service to the Great Lakes Planetarium Association. This award today goes to Bart Benjamin. Please give him a big round of applause. As he's coming up here, I will explain that he is being awarded for an incredible 119 quarterly newsletters. Now, do the math. 120 divided by 4 would be 30 years of doing the newsletter for the Great Lakes Planetarium Association and improving it along the way, not just coasting. Thank you. Thank you so much. And one more award. Thank you for your patience. And for this award, it's a mentor award. It honors those who spend great effort and countless hours mentoring students and or others in the planetarium field, people who have consistently provided encouragement and opportunities to become involved in the planetarium profession, thereby promoting the quality and continuity of our profession. This award tonight goes to John Wharton. John, would you please come up? I believe Anna would like to come up and say a few words.
Now you know why I wanted you to stick around. So, John was with the Science Center for 33 years. He just retired. He's the one who oversaw the renovations of the planetarium a couple times, and he's the one who got the OmniMax open and what we call the 50/50 building. That's the building that the OmniMax is in. And he started that love of planetaria for me. I first visited the planetarium when I was 2 years old. I saw my first star show when I was 4, and I was hooked. And what's cool for me is that he's basically been guiding my career since I was a toddler. And I don't do that on purpose. When I got to start working, first started volunteering and eventually got hired at the planetarium, got to know John a little better and realized that he was that driving force when I was a kid behind all the things that I loved. And as time went on, one of my other mentors moved away, and I asked John if he would kind of help me out as I was trying to find my way as a new manager, just so I could have somebody to talk to about the dome. And he took me under his wing, even though he told me several times, "Oh, I don't do that anymore. I'm not in the dome anymore. Nobody's going to remember me anymore." Except that they all ask about you every time I'm at a conference. So, John has considerably helped my career. And just so you know, this award requires multiple people to write letters. And so it wasn't just me. The gentleman sitting behind you, Hal Donovan, supported you, as well as Dave Joya, our OmniMax theater manager, and Howard George. And I think Howard said it best at the end of his letter. If you look around the Science Center, there's not one piece of it that's not John Wharton. He is the reason that it is there. And he is the reason that all of us have a place to love and to work. So thank you, John.
We won't get many more opportunities to express our gratitude to Anna and the planning committee, her staff, and so let's give another big, huge thank you, warm gratitude. I was hoping you were going to do that. I was hoping you were going to do that, but I couldn't let go. On behalf of our president, Dale Brown, who couldn't be here, and all of us, we just wanted to give a small token of our appreciation for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we have one more talk this evening for you, / award, and I'm going to need some help in introducing this person. So all of the regionals have a special speaker of some kind. For the Western Alliance Conference regionals, and for SEPA, this is their keynote speaker. For MAPS, it is the Margaret Noble Address, and for GLPA, it is the Arminspitz Memorial Lecture. And so I'd like to ask our representatives from MAPS and GLPA to come up and talk a little bit about the awards and the talk that their representatives usually give. Now, what's really cool about this is that the person who's giving the talk tonight is actually someone who has worked pretty much with all of the United States in some way or another. So he is a force to be reckoned with throughout our community. So, but I'm going to go ahead and let MAPS and GLPA give you a little information first before we bring him up here.
Welcome, everybody. How are you doing today? Good, I hope. Yay. My name is Jerry Vinsky, and I'm the outgoing president of MAPS. You met Kevin earlier. It's been about, like you said, 10 and a half hours now. So. I haven't worn a tie and a jacket in years, other than a wedding and a couple of funerals, and I decided I'm not going to do it. I did forget my astronaut tie, but nevertheless, I'm going to be low-key and low-tech. I don't know how many people know Margaret Noble. She was a MAPS person. Actually, was one of the founding members of MAPS back in 1965. So that's her first claim to fame. But she was remembered as a mentor, an educator, a planetarian lobbyist, a science education advocate, and a dreamer. So as members of the MAPS Society, we strive to emulate her vision in education and educating others. And one way of doing this is having a speaker, the Margaret Noble Address speaker, at our annual conference to enlighten all of us for another year. And so I have to remind everybody, I believe Dr. Hurd is from Pennsylvania, so he's technically a MAPS. No, he might be a GLPA person too, I guess. So, all right. Thank you.
We have a tradition of reading a letter that was from Arminspitz, for which our lecture is named after. And I think it's a good reminder of what is at the heart of all of us. I think you'll recognize yourself in this as well. You may have heard me say many times that, in my opinion, the full potential of the planetarium, and I use the word in its broadest possible connotation, has yet barely been scratched. Isn't that incredible that we can still say that today? It is my earnest hope that people who are chosen to be the Arminspitz lecturers will be selected because of the fact that they have creative imaginations in this field and the courage to visualize the achievement of ideals in a practical way by the use of the planetarium instrument. I have always dreamed of its use to help produce more and better astronomers, and I believe that this is now coming to pass. Perhaps I have dreamed equally long and earnestly about its being used as a catalyst to begin reactions which will help people to understand each other individually and collectively. So please, in your selection of speakers, choose those who are not ashamed to acknowledge that they have a dream. And let that point always be stressed, that we, as thinking beings, occupy a unique vantage point in nature between the macrocosm and the microcosm, and that we have the intellectual capacity of comprehending both. My greetings to all of you. It is one of my earnest hopes that it will not be too long before I'm physically able to visit you and make your acquaintance again. And it is my honor, you'll see that our speaker tonight does indeed represent those values.
So our joint Margaret Noble Address, Armin Spitz Memorial Lecture, and SEPA, GPPA, RUMPA, PPA, and SWAP keynote speaker is Dr. David Hurd. After earning a Bachelor's of Science in Geology from Iowa State University in 1984, David Hurd continued his education with a Master's of Science in Science Education from the University of Nebraska in 1991, and a Doctor of Philosophy and Education from Cleveland State University in 1997. Prior to coming to Edinburgh University in 1992, he taught geology, astronomy, meteorology, physics, and chemistry at both the college and high school levels. With his trademark high energy and inquiry-based pedagogy, Dr. Hurd has gained a reputation as one of the region's most engaging professors. A two-time recipient of the Educator of the Year Award at Edinburgh University, Hurd is consistently nominated for a multitude of awards by his students. In addition, his contributions in the classroom, Dr. Hurd manages the Edinburgh University Planetarium and provides the local community with interactive and engaging live planetarium programs. The planetarium has received national recognition for his inclusion of all learners in STEM objectives. Considered a pioneer in the field, he has dedicated the last 18 years to producing and implementing tactile astronomy materials for the blind and has facilitated workshops on teaching astronomy to the visually impaired. His recent book, Getting a Feel for Eclipses, highlighted the 2017 total solar eclipse and will be modified for the upcoming eclipses in South America and again in the United States. So if you have that book, hang on to it. There's a page that'll slip in the back. Other tactile books under development in conjunction with NASA include books on small bodies and ocean worlds in the solar system. And it is with great pleasure to introduce to you Dr. David Hurd.
Wow, that guy sounded really impressive. And I put my talk in the conference agenda, so if I start reading paper abstracts randomly, just smile and wave, okay? So we'll get started. So I do want to acknowledge my Edinburgh University gang, and they're here, and my wife, Lavina, and also Ken Murphy for all of their support and making me the planetarian I am today. But I'd also like to acknowledge Roger Sargent. He can't be here with us today. We all know the Rogers in our lives, don't we? The man or woman who impacts us on a regular basis and makes us better at what we do. The one who doesn't have a background in planetarium management or even formal education, but adds to our success by their sheer passion and involvement with our programs. Roger works for the athletic department at Edinburgh University in grounds. And during the day, he can be found washing uniforms for athletes or painting lines on fields. But he has a zest for learning and helping in the planetarium. And he had a hand in guiding me in the development of this talk. Well, it's a great privilege to stand here before my colleagues and friends. I recall getting a phone message from Anna regarding the upcoming conference, and I was just sure that she wanted me to do a paper or a workshop on working with special needs visitors. And I just thought maybe she wanted me to help out with the cause, the cause of the planetarian convention here. And I was pretty busy, so can you imagine that, a planetarian too busy to get back with Anna Green? I mean, but man. So then she decided to call, and she decided to ask me straight up in an email if I would deliver the Noble Spitz lecture. As many of past lecturers can attest, at first I thought she might be joking. But after realizing she was in a state of panic, to find someone naive enough to take her up on it, I accepted, noting that I was humbled, honored, and petrified. Now, remember those 3 words because I'm going to come back to them, okay? So don't forget those. So anyway, so here we are today, and even today, I sought out Gary Tomlinson's advice. Where's Gary? Since he's had so much experience with conferences. So I asked him, I said, Gary, how do I even start? And what do I do tonight? He said, oh, that's easy. Just start by thanking all the important people that made it possible for you to be here. And I said, well, I really don't know all the key players and all the regionals, and I was wondering if you could put the list together for me in order of importance. So Gary was kind enough to put a list together for me, so thank you, Gary Tomlinson, for doing that for me. I appreciate it. I haven't even looked at the list yet, so I apologize. If I'm mispronouncing any of your names, I do apologize. In order of importance, let's see. Number 1, Gary Tomlinson. Number 2, GT. Okay. Number 3, Gary Tomlinson. Forget it. Okay. No, seriously, the first one I looked to for advice was Dale Smith. So I called him in a panic and I said, hey, I've got to do this talk. Would you mind helping? He said, sure, I'll help you out. Just send me $50 and I'd be happy to write that paper for you. So I sent Dale $50, and about a week later, a package arrived in the mail. And I said, oh man, this is exciting. So I got it out and I thought to myself, I can't wait to read my speech. So I started to read it, and wow, it was really good. But as I read on, I was like, wait a minute, this sounds vaguely familiar. And what's going on here? So as I started to dig into the archives, I discovered that it was the same talk he delivered in 2002 in Wisconsin. The names were changed to protect the innocent, however. All right. Anyway, okay, back to being humbled, honored, and petrified. Point number 1. I am so humbled to be in this profession. Have you ever stopped to realize that we carry on a trade that has gone on since the beginning of our existence? Have you ever pondered the fact that before most, if not all, people groups had a written language, they were mapping the stars, planets, and intricacies of the moon and sun and recording them chiseled in rock or using larger structures that enabled ancient cultures to record significant natural events? To me, that's humbling. Or what about the myriad of times 5th graders have asked me a great question that I only skirt about the edges with? I know that hasn't happened to any of you, right? Why does mass cause gravity? What's outside the universe? Or are there vampires in here? Oops, wait a minute. That's the kind of questions Ken Murphy gets. Yeah, from his. I'm also humbled to be here with you. You are my friends, truly my friends, my colleagues, and my first reaction to doing this talk was, nuts! I can't wow them with some cool astronomical stuff or wax eloquently, or more likely wane pathetically, about an upcoming astronomical event or fact, or even hide behind a council in a dark dome, all while magically maneuvering my guests through a tour of their backyard in my planetarium. Besides, if I picked an astronomical topic, over half of you would know 10 times more on the subject than I do, and the other half would be too humble to let me know I got it wrong. First slide, please. Yeah. Turn it off before this slide sees it. Oh my goodness, that's embarrassing. It's upset. Wow. Okay, we'll pretend that didn't happen. Yeah, these talks are themselves very humbling. especially when you must deliver one. And I don't know about you, but I need these talks. Once a year, I need to be energized. I need a pep talk. And that's what I feel like I get when I go to one of these lectures. I get encouraged, I get challenged, and I need that. So I'm not going to bring to you anything new today or anything that you say, wow, I never knew that. But what I hope to do is encourage you and hope to challenge you. For some of you, this is a pep talk, and I'm just saying, keep up the good work. All right? Keep on it. Keep out on the long haul. For others, myself included, it's, come on, we can do better. We need to get back to our first love. Maybe you've lost that Showtime mentality. Well, you got to catch it again. You just got to do it. You got to say to yourself, you know what? I'm not going to let 40 kindergartners in here today with their glow shoes ablazing get me down. I'm going to introduce them to the wonder of our place in space. And what an opportunity we have to tell others we come into contact with that we work in a planetarium. In my mind, being a professor is secondary. I run a planetarium. I just have to be a professor so I get a paycheck. But I run a planetarium. When I'm out and about, I run a planetarium. After all, the planetarium's not a room. It's a magical place, so make it a magical place. True story, one of which my secretary reminds me of often. I remember not long ago, a student was wandering out in the hall during the first day of class. And I happened to be out in the hall at the same time, and she came up and asked me, "Where's Cooper Hall 161? "I don't know. Let's go find it," I replied with my best professorial voice. After searching for about 2 minutes, we ran into my secretary, who was also guiding students who were wandering aimlessly on that first day of class. And so we asked my secretary, "Where's room 161? A puzzled look came across her face as she looked at me, expecting me to finish the punchline. But then she realized I was asking a legitimate question. She laughed politely and told the student and me she would show us to room 161. Down the familiar hall we trod. Boy, had I been a good Boy Scout doing a good deed for the day. Yep. And I was in the act of doing a good deed when she slipped into the museum and pointed to the planetarium door. "There's room 161, Cooper Hall, Dr. Hurd." What? I thought, that's not room 161, that's the planetarium. I never knew it was room 161, as the sign behind my floating Earth display so loudly proclaims. It was always the planetarium. For me, the planetarium stands on its own. It's not a room, it's not a room number, it's the planetarium. And there's a respect that comes with the fact that it's a planetarium. And I want you to think about your humble beginnings related to the planetarium field for a moment. Show of hands. How many of you knew you would work in the planetarium community when you first entered college? How many of you knew? Okay. All right. How many of you knew by the time you were a junior in college you would work in the planetarium community? Okay, a few more hands. For how many of you was it not until after you finished college that you discovered you would work with the planetarium community? My hand's up. All right, look around the room. Isn't that crazy? What a journey we are on, and what tales we can tell. Many of you have heard or shared your journey tonight with someone sitting at your table. Toshi Komatsu, who works at the Dianza College Fujitsu Planetarium, was a junior at UC Berkeley when he stumbled upon an ad for a planetarium presenter at the Lawrence Hall of Science, and his path crossed with Alan Gould. Several years later, as a result of Alan's encouragement and arm twisting, to attend a WAC meeting in San Diego, Toshi had found a home. Toshi recalls that the WAC conference was an unusually friendly crowd and all too willing to share, encourage, and challenge him to explore many different ways of communicating in the planetarium in an engaging way. Zach Thompson shares a similar journey. At the University of Nebraska as an undergraduate, he reached out to Jack Dunn. Oh boy, there's a mistake. He reached out to Jack. Jack would help guide Zach in his quest to learn all he could about about how a planetarium is operated. In his own words, Zach recalls, "I'll never forget the day I got word I would be the lucky follower to take over the reins at Mueller Planetarium. Now, 3 years later, it's a wonder how so many steps in my life lead me to this time and place, and I never knew it. I am grateful to be living the dream, where it hardly feels like work, to share this love of astronomy with others, to see the wonder in their eyes when they experience a planetarium show or presentation. It's a fulfillment beyond words. I am grateful for what I learned from Jack and what I continue to learn from my new friends and colleagues. This is where I was meant to be." Both Toshi and Zach are the result of planetarium community embracing energetic and creative individuals. And it's noteworthy that both of them expressed how much their regionals made a significant impact on them. Part of my own journey includes cutting my teeth on a Spitz A3P with the original control council. I had finished my undergraduate degree and taught junior high physical science for 4 years before finding my first love. It was at the University of Nebraska Kearney campus where I was first introduced to the world of planetariums while working on my master's. My advisor, Dr. Glenn Underhill, told me, mind you, he didn't suggest I would be running the annual Christmas show in the planetarium. "The planetarium?" I exclaimed. "Let's see, that doesn't have the telescope in it, does it?" So one October afternoon, he told me to have a pencil and notepad ready and took me into the planetarium. "I want you to copy this control panel exactly as it's laid out here, and I want you to find out what every knob in this machine does." With that, he turned and walked out. It was sort of dark in there, and it took me a long time to even find where the light switches were. However, at Dr. Underhill's request, I painstakingly took on the task of learning how to operate the planetarium. My first couple of shows, I am certain, were less than stellar. However, making me copy down the control panel and self-discover was one of the best things he could have done for me. I was hooked. It wasn't long before I was scheduling and running the programs on my own. I never did see him in the planetarium after my initiation. In fact, he retired the following spring, probably due to one of his students, me. However, his methodology lives on, as I have countless graduate and undergraduate students who happily, maybe grudgingly, remember their first day on the job when Dr. Hurd made them copy the control panel and find out what the knobs do. Well, I graduated from the A3P in Nebraska to a Vulex Apollo. Huh? How many of you know what I'm talking about there? Vulex Apollo. Yeah. The pull down, it had a pull down metal shelf, and the control panel would just fold out before you. All this was housed in a 20-foot dome of sorts. That was actually another display for other rocks and minerals while the planetarium was not in use at the Kingman Museum of Natural History in Battle Creek, Michigan. From there, I was sent back to the A3P at Edinburgh University of Pennsylvania, where I've been for the last 25 years, and wouldn't trade it for anything. And even though I don't have the latest technology, slide number 2. Wait. even though, boy, I lost my place on that one. And even though I don't have the latest full dome technology, or full dome at all for that matter, I continue to milk out of the A3P the last bit of starlight in my universe that I only see as growing and expanding as the opportunities unfold before me to enlighten the next generation of explorers. Interesting sidebar, I think that cutting my teeth on the A3P at the University of Nebraska helped me get my job at Edinburgh University, as I walked in and said, hey, I know this projector. I know this control panel. This feels like my backyard. Point number 2. What an honorable profession we have. It's humbling, it's also honoring. What an honorable profession we have. The word honor as a noun has 2 primary meanings. It can either mean high respect or esteem, as in the U.S. Regional Planetarium Associations are regarded with honor among planetarians around the world. Or the word honor can mean a privilege. For example, it is an honor to bring the wonders of our universe to our constituents. It is this latter of meaning of honor of which I speak now as a professional planetarian who has the privilege, pleasure, pride, joy, yes, honor, to be able to do what I do. After all, what other professions allow you to invite your customers into your backyard? So I ask you now, have you lost that first love? If you have, you've forgotten about the honor afforded you to invite others into your backyard. In the book of Revelation in the Bible, the Apostle John records a message Christ wanted to communicate to the church in Ephesus. In that particular letter, Christ commends the church for many things, but ends up with the following rebuke. But I have this against you, that you have left your first love. I believe they didn't lose their first love, but rather left it. That, to me, seems more purposeful and intentional. I don't think some of us have left our first love, but rather some of us, myself included, have lost our first love. The distinction is subtle, but I believe very important. I did not intentionally leave my first love I once had in the planetarian profession, but rather I have allowed other distractions to draw me away from my zeal. Distractions, the mundane, the other responsibilities, piled up until the planetarium itself was the distraction. I need to regain that showtime mentality. I admit, I've lost my first love and need to find it again. So let's search for it right here, right now, together. When's the last time you blessed your guests with a trip to the North Pole to visit Santa Claus and the sky he sees? Or better yet, when's the last time when somebody asked, is there a South Star? You said, I don't know. Let's go look for it. But before we go look, how might we determine if they have one in the first place? Let's think about it. Let's talk about it. Let's go exploring right now, right here in your backyard. When's the last time you found the third dipper in the sky called the Milk Dipper? By the way, I was really impressed with that constellation shootout. I was out the first round just sitting there in the chair singing. I'm glad I didn't sign up for that. When was the last time you researched and then pointed out one or two interesting cultural constellations? How about the blubber container and the lampstand, Cassiopeia in Inuit lore? The cat's cradle, Orion in Polynesian lore? Organized group of thieves, the Big Dipper in Macedonian lore? Buffalo embryo, the Hyades in Lakota lore? Or the little plow, three saints, the hatching hen with her chicks, the bright star of the pig? That one sounds like a Steven Spielberg movie too. Jaguar, armadillo, and the list goes on and on. When's the last time when you asked, hey, what's the brightest star in the night sky? And everybody shouted, wait a everybody shouted, the North Star, Polaris. Did you say, hey, let's find the North Star? Did you know you can find the North Star this way? And once you found the North Star, said, I wonder if it is the brightest star in the night sky. Let's have a look around. Don't lose your first love. Of course, with my old Spitz A3P, sometimes I think the North Star was the brightest star in the night sky and really couldn't tell the difference. But there's kind of dependent on the position of the star ball. By the way, do you know what A3P stands for? Huh? A3 prime. No, you're mistaken, Mitch. Sorry. It really stands for adjust and align planets. Or maybe since it's not a subscript 3, it stands for adjust planet positions promptly. Just kidding. Is this mic on? That's a joke. Hello. Okay. Or what about finding your first love even out of the planetarium? When was the last time that you provided your version? This is a bolt sizer. When's the last time, and I give my students this to use, when's the last time you provided your version of a device with various sized holes in it and challenged your students to predict how big the full moon will be at arm's length with one eye closed? Huh? What fun. You know what their predictions will be. And you may have forgotten what their surprise will be when they return to class to report their findings. When was the last time when introducing the concept of AUs did you get a meter's length of adding machine or receipt paper, tell your pupils to imagine the sun at one end and Pluto's orbit at the other end, and challenge them to predict and mark in where the other planets should be? Of course, Pluto's about how far? 39 AUs, right? Pluto's about 39 AUs from the sun, and a meter is just over 39 inches long. You know what their predictions will be. So I ask you to consider what creative way will you help them find out the truth in the matter. Or what about this? How often do you invite your audience into your backyard, where the temperature's always just right and there's never a cloud in the sky? I know one of our colleagues sitting with us tonight does a great job inviting her guests into her backyard. Yeah. In fact, during a job interview, she accidentally pointed out the wrong stars that make up the summer triangle. After realizing her error, she quickly retorted, "Oh, your backyard is much bigger than my backyard." Well, she got the job, and I know she does a great job inviting her guests into her 40-foot backyard. But I still miss her working in my 30-foot backyard. Thanks, Tiffany. By the way, any of us who've had the privilege to present in someone else's backyard has experienced the angst of being totally lost for a while until you can orientate yourself. Right? Come on, hands. Yeah, mine's up. I will never forget about 20 years, I was at Edinburgh for a little while, and our control panel is in the west. Okay? And that's where we have it set. It's in the west. So when you turn daily forward, how are the stars going to be moving? Hello? Towards you, right? They come towards you. So I don't even remember, it's somewhere in Michigan, but this is, so that explains it right there. But no, I went for an interview at a planetarium in Michigan. Their control panel happens to be below the eastern horizon. So I was doing a program, or I was going to impress them with my planetarium skills, and I went in there, and so when I turned daily forward, how are the stars moving? This is broke. You better call Ash and have them come by right away, because we've got a serious problem here. This is broke. It was rough because Oh, that was terrible. I did not get the job. Okay. Anyway, the examples and opportunities are boundless to help us find our first love of this profession. And it is conferences like this that enable us to do that through fantastic colleagues who are filled with creative ideas for reaching a wide variety of audiences. Colleagues like Gene Sajak, Jeannie Bishop, Dave DeReamer, and others come to my mind. I am certain you can think of those creative educators in your regional organization, and I encourage you to tap into their brain trust. After all, most of my creative teaching techniques aren't my ideas, they're your ideas. I don't come up with this stuff, you do. I don't invent these ideas, I steal them. You guys make me look good. And then I win awards for being a good professor. I just don't tell them that I steal these great teaching ideas every year from my colleagues from the planetarium associations in North America. Point number 3. Did I do point number 2 already? I must have. Okay. Point number 1 was humble. Point number 2 was honored. And point number 3, very good, petrified. Yes, being a planetarian is an honor and at times humbling, but it can also be petrifying. Facility closures and cutbacks, dealing with administrations that just don't get it, shows that go bump in the night. Slide number 3. We'll just leave that one up there for a while. Yes, wow. Students or patrons who bring criticism, justified or otherwise, and the list goes on. There's a possibility I could have lost my job on October 1st from Edinburgh University of Pennsylvania. It was an unsettling time, but I was blessed with the fact that I did not. But I often ask myself, if I had, would have I lost my zest for astronomy? Would that flame have died? Would resentment, anger, and bitterness build up in my life instead of, wow, I wonder where I can go, where I can make a difference in the lives of learners and their interest in science and astronomy? Well, you can turn that off now. Hey, please. How many of you seen those boxes? They're about like that. They're gray or black. They're called slide projectors. Let's say that together. Slide projectors. Yes. And that's that's where planetariums are moving. So just wanted to bring you up to speed there. Okay. All right. Anyway, I am also petrified that at times I might fail. And at times, I've failed epically. After all, how many of you can lay claim to nearly burning down your facility? It was a cold December morning several years ago when I was rudely woken by a phone call from my dean. David, you need to get in here immediately and report to me ASAP. The local fire department is on site, and it seems there has been a fire in the planetarium. How can that be, I thought. Who would do such a thing? Was it an act of terrorism? After arriving at the planetarium, I quickly realized that one of my best laid special effects had gotten the better of me. An 18-inch plastic Frosty the Snowman. Perched above one, I disengaged the other 3. Perched above one of the old-style arc lamps that heats to the temperature of the photosphere in a matter of seconds, created the perfect effect for my homemade and improvised Christmas light show. As long as no one tried to use the house lights, the effect was a foolproof plan guaranteed to work flawlessly and delight patrons through the season as a quick on-off motion would illuminate Frosty to dark-adapted eyes, causing squeals of delight and leaving the indelible image of Frosty the Snowman dancing in their minds. But what about the custodian? Did he not enjoy the effect during his morning vacuuming? Or did he not get the memo that it was to be turned on and off immediately? Maybe the cool glow that lasted for less than a minute and erupted in flames dancing on my asbestos dome did not impress him. Needless to say, afterwards an all-faculty bulletin would come out on email warning all faculty to use extreme caution with any holiday decorations, accompanied with a list of what was permissible and what was not. Although it went out to all faculty, each time I saw that email, an invisible finger would come out of the screen, tap me on the chest to remind me who it was really aimed at. Now, all that remains of the 18-inch tall Frosty is part of the head and top hat fused to the bulb casing, as though our formidable closest star had indeed been the demise of Frosty. I think maybe John Bell should lead us in a Frosty the Snowman song. What is he here? The Snowman. I shouldn't have asked. Wow. Thank you. Wow. Anyway, wow. For about 8 years, the smoke stain arch directly above the mishap on the dome added to the magical ambiance at the Edinburgh University Planetarium. During the renovation of Cooper Hall in 2012, about all I got was a painted dome and a sprinkler system that posed quite a dilemma when we installed new LED cove lights in 2014. And I often wonder why the management was all too eager to splurge for the white light LED option to replace my previous house light system. Go figure. Another epic failure was directly related to my work with students who are blind. After all, I am the leading expert in working with blind and visually impaired students in science education. Not. And I am so impressed, that a student memorialized me in a poem that was published in a book, which I would like to share with you now, on trying to read a weather station map in Braille at an atmospheric space science review session, April 29th, 2003. In his office I sit, reading the isobars, trying to figure out what they are telling me. What language are these materials in, you ask? It is a frustration, and quite a language she speaks. The professor guides my hand over the humdrum of lines. It all feels the same to me. Why do I not understand this? Perhaps it is the uniformity and unfairness of it all. Perhaps the impatient professor expecting instant progress. Where are they? I give it my all, no progress. Am I doomed to failure? What do these lines mean to me? It is all just another form of calligraphy. I feel the lines again. They are like reading a fortune. What does this loop above the small dot mean? That's nothing, I'm told. Concentrate on the point out yonder fields. Keep trying, trying, trying. That line from the circle curves and points upward to the left, that to the right. Go home and study this further. If I can't figure it out here, how am I supposed to figure this out in my dorm, it being noisy and full of life? What relevance will this have on me 10 years hence? Will it help me build my career taller than a neighboring fence? Perhaps another reading of a poem. The lines converge on one another in my mind. There is nothing in the current project to find. I will continue to try to find the mystery of my task at hand. To hold my own, I must make this stand. That was Ken Bramer, published in Life Lessons Through Poetry, College Life for a Visually Impaired Person in Verse. Ken and I actually had a very good student-teacher relationship, but his frustration in trying to make sense of a pseudo-adiabatic lapse rate chart was the final straw. I mean, I can barely spell pseudo-adiabatic lapse rate chart, let alone try to teach it to a student who's blind. The poem captured his frustration, and although it was a scathing rebuke of my inadequacies, at least I tried. And this made me better at what I do in working with students with disabilities. And often it is in those efforts of trying that we learn to be better deliverers within our practice. After all, I am convinced that we learn more from failures than from successes. In my over 30 years teaching experience, I cannot recall once giving out extra credit points for students giving me right answers during lectures. But I often, almost daily, give out extra credit points for wrong answers that help us understand why we think the way we do and provide a backdoor approach to better understanding. So I want to close with this, and I want you to think not about what you have done for the planetarium community, but rather think about what the planetarium community has done for you. Who has been influential in your career? Who was it that inspired you to be doing what you are doing now, and even influencing how you do it? The most influential person for me was Paul Riem, and unfortunately he could not be here with us tonight. I just talked to him about a week ago. Paul was curator of natural history at the Kingman Museum of Natural History in Battle Creek, Michigan. It was amazing to witness him work with children who came to the museum, directing them through experiential learning as a master conductor of a symphony orchestra. But it wasn't his skill with the children that impressed me as much as his showtime mentality. He would often remind us, it's not your day, it's the kids' day. For Paul, when a bus rolled in, it was showtime. In fact, he would shout it out as a bus rolled in up to the museum. It's showtime! With a smile on his face, he would bust out the front door that was guarded by the bull moose standing 10 feet high, a cow and calf. He would bound down the limestone stairs and anxiously await the door of the bus to open. He was one of my biggest influences on how I conduct business. It's showtime, and my audience has arrived. It didn't matter to Paul what other distractions were buzzing around in his head or surrounding, for when the group arrived, it was showtime. But Paul, I was enjoying our gripe session about the administration here. It was too late. He was out the door. But Paul, I was enjoying our conversation about our cramped office space where three of us barely have enough room to get through the door, let alone to our desks. It was too late. He was out the door with a smile on his face. But Paul, you were just telling me how rough it was last night with your wife and kids. It was too late. He was out the door with a smile on his face. It was showtime. So tonight, I challenge you to take root downward and bear fruit upward. For those of you who are all in, keep at it. Keep up the great work. For those of us who need a reminder, find that first love, because no matter where you find yourself tonight, it's showtime.
Thank you so much. All right, so despite running late earlier today, we are running early now. So, thank you for getting us back on track. Yes, by the way, I'm going to do that thing where people are going to yell at me because I'm going to make them feel old, but I'm going to do it anyway. I loaded my first slide projector ever recently, and like 2 months ago. And I was like, all right, I read the instruction manual, and I'm looking at the slides, and there's little arrows on it, but they're not the ones that somebody took the Sharpie to and ran around the top, you know? So I'm like, all right, so there's an arrow, and this one's sideways, and this one, okay. Stick them all in, take it in my dome. I'm like, are these even gonna show up on my dome? Our last dome was a lot smaller. And it showed up real well, backwards and upside down. I was told that was an initiation rite to slide projectors, so. So I was also asked to remind you all that we do have one more sponsor hall visit in the morning. And it's all of the sponsor hall rooms. So it's not just next door, although it is also next door. It's also our other sponsor hall rooms as well. And that will be after breakfast, of course. And then we have one more paper session tomorrow, and there are some really fun ones in there. You don't want to miss it. And we're also going, I'm so excited about this, and I know a lot of you are too. So, as you know, or maybe don't, St. Louis is home to the beginning of the space race. The Mercury and Gemini spacecraft were built here. You probably saw them in our lobby when you were at the planetarium. And we happen to have a group called Mac's Old Team. They named themselves that, and the Mercury 6 from this group are going to be coming to talk to us. They built the Mercury and the Gemini spacecraft. So they're going to be doing a panel tomorrow led by our Chief Science Education and Experience Officer, Christian Greer, and I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun with this. And so I hope that you will all be able to stick around for that. We have a lot more sharing and networking to do, so please enjoy the rest of your time. Don't forget about the Hayabusa over in the Godo area. And then join us for the Laser Fantasy Hospitality Suite in about 20 minutes, upstairs where you found it before. Oh, and I did receive a complaint that karaoke did not continue every night. I'm not gonna lie, guys, I thought you were all gonna hate that. That's why we only had it one night. But our conference planner just so happened to mention to me that she had a karaoke machine in the back of her car. So if you give us a little bit of time to get that set up, we'll see what we can do. I make no promises if we can get it working, but again, there's a ton of beer, please drink it. Thanks, guys.